Hey, welcome to The Conversation. You're listening to Andy Mason, and this is authentic conversations around the messy intersection of faith, family, and business growth. So today I want to talk to you and give you some insight behind the scenes of what I am listening to, reading, watching right now that's both feeding myself and also what I'm doing for enjoyment in that context. And the whole goal of this is to really encourage and stimulate you to do the same. And the first thing you may say is, well, I don't have time for that. Well, I'd say you don't have time not to do this, because this is called sharpening the saw. It's pouring back into your life. It's preparing you for the future. It's growing your capacity mentally, business-wise. It's increasing you in every capacity so that you can step into growth and ongoing growth. I say leaders are learners, so I don't care what means by which you learn. You may not be a reader. That's okay. There's multiple ways of doing this, whether you watch something, listen to something, or intentionally talk with people. There's ways of doing this. So I want to encourage you that. And then also, before I dive into some of the things that I'm listening to and why I'm listening to those things, is how I'm doing that. So for me personally, listening is just such a good thing because I can double time it. So we have just joined a local gym. I've always said I'd never do that, but I've finally succumbed. Being in Pennsylvania, the roads are different. I don't have a recreation area at our backyard. I can't just run out the back and then listen. So I'm actually really enjoying it. It gives me focused time where I can put earbuds in and do a couple miles on the treadmill and then do some upper body work. And the entire time I'm listening to a podcast or an audiobook, and it's quite good use of time. Secondly, when I go to bed at night, or if I wake up in the night, I've learned that that's just a great time to put on an audiobook. And I've got to be careful what audiobook or what podcast I'll listen to, because I don't want it to jack me up and get me too excited. But if it's a story, if it's the Bible, it's a great time to do that then. What's the point? I'm finding times when I'm driving in the car, when I'm doing exercise, when I should be asleep, where I can put on an audiobook that's actually double timing my life. It's using time way more effectively, and it's really, really good. So that's just a couple of practical things in terms of the how-tos. But what am I listening to? So I'm going to walk through audiobooks, podcasts, what I'm reading, and then over all of this, I've actually just started to really enjoy worship time in the morning. So what I can do, and I don't do this every day, but particularly last week, starting a new habit of starting my day with worship. So what that looks like is worship and prayer. So what that looks like is putting on a YouTube worship set. So it could be Bethel Worship, it could be Elevation Church, it could be Hillsong Church, it could be a new one I found called Revere or Upper Room. Those are multiple different sets where you can literally just plug it in on YouTube, push play, turn up the volume, and then walk around your office or your house. I've done both. And pray and worship and take some time to do that, which literally sets your day up amazingly, because you become more aware of who God is, how His nature, His ways, His word. And then I'll find time and time again when I do that, my phone will blow up with texts and emails and solutions and connections. And it's like, whoa, slow down. It happens. It's like God is my source of increase. So why not worship Him? So what am I listening to? What am I reading, and why? Firstly, here's my audio book play. I'm not going to even tell you all of what it is. It's about 15 to 20 hours a month, because it actually tells me. And again, that's while I'm at the gym. It's while I'm driving. If I've got to drive an hour each way to pick up my daughter from school. That's when she gets out from boarding, like a weekend out. So that's one way. So it all adds up. A little bit here, a little bit there, adds up over time. So what am I listening to? I'm listening to The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. That's the story of a Dutch watchmaker who harbored Jews, hid them in her house during World War II. just a phenomenal story. It's inspiring me. It's encouraging me. It's challenging me, the courage, the tenacity of what they did. And I'm just enjoying this, real easy listening. I am listening to Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. A friend of mine recommended this in terms of working out that everybody's, in some aspects of your life, victim, villain, a victor or a hero, and then the guide. And where are you on your life is taking responsibility for your life and actually being intentional. And he's walking through that process. It's a great reminder and actually helping me focus. I have just finished reading Shifting Atmospheres by Donna De Silva, in part because of the conversations that I've been having with people around spirit realm. Understanding the spirit realm. Don't be ignorant of the spirit realm. And what do you do in the spirit realm? So that's been fantastic. And I've actually tied that into, I purchased the workbook. So I'm actually walking through the workbook where I might just read one chapter and actually walk it through with my pen at night before I go to sleep. So that's another how I actually do this during my day. So just finished that. I'm about 80% of the way through Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. And you might be saying, what do you mean? That was written 10 years ago plus. I know. Maybe I'm a slow learner. I am loving that. If you want to get lit up, reconnect with passion, challenged in a whole new way and given a practical process to walk that out, fantastic book that I would recommend every man should read. And then obviously one of my continual ongoing is the Passion Translation on audiobooks. I can just find where to read and away we go. I also often will read or listen to YouVersion. So that's a free app on your phone, and I put on the timer. So I'll put on like 30 minutes, and right now I'm reading through the book of Ephesians. And I will be, and literally I'll put it on if I'm in bed at night and going to sleep with that playing, and then 30 minutes it goes off. So that's another little great way to actually work through this. There's a bunch of other books there that I've been kind of touching on. I've just finished Fault Lines by Voddie Baucham. I've just finished Killing the Killers by Bill O'Reilly. That's America's War on Terrorism. It's written like a journalist. Fun learning of some fascinating things going on. Killing England by Bill O'Reilly. That's the whole War of Independence and what happened. And Killing Jesus, which is a journalist's view on what actually happened historically in Jesus' day from his birth to his death, what is known, what is picked up through history. Fascinating. I've actually listened to that one multiple times, really impacted me and loved it. So those are some of the ones that I'm listening to on audiobooks at the moment. Podcasts, I've kind of got 3 that I'm scrolling around multiple times. One at the moment, in terms of business growth, Think Media. It's a channel, it's a podcast, it's how to build your YouTube channel. Very, very good practical keys that I'm thinking of using and applying. And I also got his book. I think it's by the same name or something similar. And it's been fantastic just to take little things. If I'm at the gym, I'm working away, I can do that. I can stop, write down a couple of notes. Hey, I should be doing this. And that's really helpful. I'm also loving God is Not a Theory with Ken Fish. In particular, there's a couple of recent podcasts. One where he interviews Chris Reed from Morningstar on the prophetic. Another one where he interviews Jay Koopman on some of the Let Us Worship, what's been going on behind the scenes. And I was actually just at one where they did a worship event outside of Independence Hall, Philadelphia. Phenomenal, wonderful atmosphere. What's going on behind the scenes as they're doing that, how they're putting that together. And I'm loving that whole podcast, God is Not a Theory, constantly just reminding you that we don't fight against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. And God is up to so much all over the world. And not only does it inspire and just lift our vision of what's going on, but also equip you mentally, physically, in terms of how do I step into those things and walk in the supernatural. And then Ford Taylor talks how to lead, love, influence, and transform. Real practical practical leadership, organizational growth, dealing with conflict, dealing with discipline. Those are the podcasts that I'm constantly listening to. And then physically reading, I think I already mentioned the book of Ephesians. So my morning starts with a coffee. After a bowl of cereal, I'll sit down with my journal and usually at the moment, it's my phone. It's the YouVersion on the phone, and I'll switch between versions, the Passion Translation, New Living Translation, and I'll just read. And at the moment, I'm just reading through Ephesians every day. I'll just read, and when I get to the end, I'll start at the beginning, read it through again, and that's just coming alive, and I write down the notes of what's impacting me the most. As I've already mentioned, I'm working through the book, it's a workbook, Atmospheres 101 by Donna De Silva. And then thirdly, I spoke to somebody else last week, and they recommended to me the book, The 3D Gospel, Ministering in Guilt, Shame, and Fear Cultures. And it's just broadening my understanding, application of, I come from a Western approach because I've grown up in the West, but there's a huge proportion of the world that actually operates in different ways. How do you minister, communicate, connect with them, understanding that the Western approach to the gospel is pretty much around guilt and guilt and forgiveness. The Eastern approach, where Jesus was, is all about shame and honor. And then in some other countries, it's all about fear and power. And understanding the Bible was written and actually applies to all three. But if you don't know the cultural context in which you're ministering, you're going to have challenges actually connecting and helping the people that you're serving. So those are some real practical things that I'm listening to. Here's my challenge for you, is put down in the comments right now is what has been the most impactful resource, whether that's an audiobook, a podcast, or a physical book that you have heard, listened, or read in the last couple of weeks, and why. What has it impacted you the most? And I trust this has been of value for you. Please make sure that you post a review below and share this with your friends. That's real helpful for us. And we will talk again next week.